right. Well, good afternoon, good morning, good evening,
Whatever.
wherever in the world you are. We are so pleased that you're with us, and I am more than pleased to bring our guest, Gloria Feldt, into our sphere just for a few minutes. And this is going to be rich beyond words, and it's going to be richer if you give your questions and so forth at the chat, and we'll entertain that for sure. So let me just introduce you, Gloria Feldt. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Deborah. Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Absolutely. Let me tell you a little bit about Gloria, and it's just a little bit because she has a lot of history and a lot of contributions, particularly to women and certainly of our ilk, 60 plus and wiser, as I say. So, Gloria is an acclaimed expert on women, power, and leadership with frontier leadership experience. Listen to this, gals. Women, power, and leadership. This is completely our swim lane. Best-selling author. She has 5 books, in-demand keynote speaker. Yes, she is. She is the co-founder and president of Take the Lead. Many of us know about this organization, and this mission reflects Gloria's life passion to prepare, develop, inspire, and propel women, propel us, right, to take our fair and equal share of leadership positions. Listen, fair and equal share. We deserve this across all sectors by 2025. Short little runway. She's an aggressive goal setter, and she is a doer. So this is happening. She provides breakthrough training. She provides mentoring, coaching, role modeling, and thought leadership for sure. Best-selling author, as I said, of 5 books. Her latest, Intentioning. This is such a keyword for me, bringing things to the intentional level. Sex, power, pandemics, and how women will take the lead. This launched September 28th, 2021, shows how we can seize this once in a lifetime opportunity. Massive disruption, right, Gloria? To build back stronger with women at the center of the recovery. And you know, women do a lot of cleanup work in this society, and it's a time for us to do the cleanup and get up into those roles of power. And it's through Gloria's insight and leadership that many of us are doing that. Through the lens of women's stories, it delivers her book a fresh set of leadership tools, skills, concepts that help all women reach their highest intentions, purposefully creating new norms. Yes, on purpose we are, while guiding institutions to break through those remaining barriers to gender and racial parity. Wow, let's imagine gender and racial parity for everyone's good. Yes, it will be. Formerly, Gloria was president and CEO of Planned Parenthood Federation of America, the world's largest reproductive health advocacy organization. Yes, she is. And she has that in her rearview mirror. She has been named Vanity Fair's one of America's top 200 women leaders, legends, and trailblazers. She has been named Glamour's Woman of the Year. She Knows Media's Inspiring Woman, Women's E-News 21 Leaders for the 21st Century, Women Economic Forum Circle of Light Award, Texas Monthly, Texas Martin Luther King Living the Dream Award, Diversity Leadership Alliance Diversity Leadership Award, Ford's 40 over 40. This woman rocks. Now, what's she doing now? Well, she's teaching in Arizona, excuse me, at Arizona State, and she is teaching a course called Women, Power, and Leadership. And of course, she's been quoted everywhere: New York Times, Washington Post, USA Today, Daily Beast, Forbes, Fast Company, Time, Huffington Post, Glamour, Ellie, and Ms. She's appeared on CNN, MSNBC, The Today Show, Good Morning America, yeah, these small things, Today Show, and a million podcasts. She is, moreover, known to her family and friends as an awesome chili maker. We're going to get it. Maybe we'll share your recipe, but sometimes people don't. We'll beg. And she and her husband, Alex, live in New York City and Scottsdale, Arizona. Great combination. And they share a combined family of 6 children and 15 grandchildren. I'm going to take a little breath because that is an amazing legacy already. And I don't think Gloria's anywhere near done. What do you think, Gloria?
No, I'm not done yet. I'm still, there's much more work to be done. And as long as I have the breath and the energy and the physical ability, I'm going to be doing it, just like you, Deborah.
Right now, right now. So I want to know, Gloria, how can women, just give us some tips, some stepping stones, if you will, women over 60 in our community contribute to and benefit from your mission?
Well, I really think that the women over 60 are probably one of the most untapped resources. right now because you get to this stage, and if we're lucky, now I understand this may not hold true for everybody, but for the most part, we all are so lucky to live longer, healthy lives, and we can stay healthy. And I think that's one of the things that we need to always prioritize is like keep moving. That's yeah, keep
Yes,
moving, keep optimistic, and have a purpose in your life. And when we do that, there's really no stopping us because we're at a stage of life where, first of all, we kind of don't give two flips about what people think about us.
I
And
love
we
that.
just do what we think is right. And right, yeah, it's really good. And also, we generally are at a place where, children at home, we have the energy, we have the experience, we have knowledge that we didn't have when we were younger. And and I think you hit a place where you kind of are at this sweet spot of where people respect that too. And so we can't fool ourselves. It doesn't last forever, but at 60, are you kidding? We have at least a third of our life left at this point, generally
Right.
speaking. And so, there's no better time to start something new if you want to.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think you're exactly right in that by this point in life, we've kind of done that whole outwardly focused thing, right? That whole societal expectation thing, if you will. And now it frees us up, does it not? Like it's almost like this 40-pound gunny sack has been taken off our shoulders, and now it's like, okay, maybe put it in your GPS. What's my future, right? Let's
Exactly.
be, to Gloria's point, intentional about this. Now, talk to us, Gloria, about your book, Intentioning. You discuss how we can use the disruption caused by the recent global events. And holy camole, we have a whole host of recent global events to build back stronger with women at the epicenter. Talk to us.
Right, right. Well, I wrote the book during the pandemic, as is obvious from all you've said in the description of it and the title. But one of the things that I say very early on in the introduction is there will always be, metaphorically, a pandemic. There will always be something that disrupts everything in your life.
Absolutely.
And it might be something personal, it might be an illness, it might be losing someone close to you, it might be losing your job, it might be deciding you want to change your job.
Mhm.
It could be any number of things, or it could be the other things that we see in the world. It could be the disruption of, look at what's going on with the weather in Florida right now. We're talking about this on October 10th, 2024. I know some people will be watching it later on, but the weather situation in Florida is disrupting people's lives. And all of these things are, I'm not going to say they're all a blessing. There's war, there's destruction of all kinds going on in the world. There's still racism, sexism, homophobia, anti-Semitism, you name it. But those are things that we have to take the energy of those things and use that energy
That's
to
it.
to create something new, have
That's it.
new ideas, to bring something new forth in the world. And just as during the pandemic, there were, women in particular started business at an astounding rate.
Yes, they did.
They took that opportunity.
Yes.
And so there will always be a disruption,
Yeah.
and it's up to us to figure out how to take the energy of that disruption to propel us forward.
I couldn't agree more. And this whole aspect of energy so dovetails with my sweet spot, which is money and finance for 45 years.
Oh,
And I speak of money as energy, Gloria, right? Because
you're
it flows, right? And excuse me. And when money does not flow, like the great recession that we experienced most recently, obviously we know through history we had a depression and so forth. But that 2007, 2008 great recession was because banks stopped lending, everything closed down. And so I'm all about the flow. And so I think we are, to your point, coming into the exact time of our creativity. We have wisdom beyond words with raising kids, perhaps having a career, having a family, whatever we've been doing. And yet I suspect we are very, very well poised to say, Come on, energy. Come on, energy. Oh, you're my like-minded sister. Come on. One and one make four, right? And
Mhm.
this kind of collective does bring us to, I think, an opportunity, Gloria. And also, is it not a responsibility for us to say, it's our time now to play the big roles, to step into those big leadership roles?
Right. To step into the big leadership roles, to take those roles, to put our hands up for them, not wait to be tapped on the shoulder and invited,
Yeah,
because that may never happen.
exactly.
You have to, again, be intentional. And I made up the word intentioning to turn the word intentional into an active verb.
I love it.
Intention to be an active verb for everybody. This is like, it's not, it does, you can have the idea, you can have the ambition, you can have the dream, but if you don't actually take action,
Right there.
it doesn't get you anywhere. I want to just loop back for a minute to your emphasis on the money part of this, which is that in so many respects, in our culture at least, and I think in most cultures in the world, money and power are almost synonymous.
Inextricably connected
And
in
so
many
all of the things that I teach women about shifting how we think about power from an oppressive idea of power over us to a generative idea of the power to make life better for ourselves and the world, it applies to money as well. And I think I came late in life to understanding that. So I really appreciate what you're doing and all the things that you say and teach, because I think women are typically not socialized to really appreciate the power of money and to understand it and to think intentionally about how to build that wealth. Now, I do think that younger women are
yes.
learning better and sooner and more specifically, but for those of us of our age, we really were not socialized.
Yes.
We were the ones who started all the nonprofit organizations. We were the ones who started the social justice movements.
Yes, indeed.
The ones who served everybody else.
Exactly.
We didn't think about building wealth for ourselves. So
Yeah.
it's another thing we have now. We have the ability to really think about that and to be much more intentional about it.
I couldn't agree more, of course. And I am so much, and I speak a lot in analogies. And women our age, we're socialized. Don't worry your little head over that, Betty. Bob will handle it, right? And I say, well, that's great if Bob doesn't predecease you or come home one day and trade you in for 230s. Now we're suddenly single and we have like zero idea of well, maybe how to write a check, certainly how to deal with our finances. And so I think as one of my life's missions for sure is to translate this to be seen, these greenbacks to be seen as a tool, right?
Mhm.
Nobody's
Right.
getting down to worshiping this. No, 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 no. This is a tool. This is the entrance fee, if you will, to goods and services that we're likely to want as we age. Like I always say to people, what's your goals? And sometimes the global effect, if you will, the maybe our interpretation of society and what has happened to us instead of for us, right, Gloria? It has tamped people down. And so then I say, well, let's prime the pump. You don't want to have a standard of living that's lesser than what you have now. Oh, no, no, no. Okay, well, let's start there. And the only
Right.
thing that's going to get us there with longevity is more of this. It's going to give us more options, right, Gloria?
It's true. That's very true. And I will confess that I really did not learn these things until fairly recently. I mean, I've had my eyes opened by women like you, to be honest with you. I realized that for me, running nonprofit organizations all my life, I was so thrilled that I got to have work that, could make my life's passions into my life's work. I was so happy about that. The best thing I thought in the whole world was when I started being able to have my paycheck deposited into my bank account and I didn't even have to think about it. And I should have been thinking a lot more about it. I should have been thinking a lot more about what it was and how much it was and to do my research and make sure that I was getting paid fairly because ultimately we have to close our own pay gaps.
We do.
We
We
talk
do.
a lot about the pay gap, but and there are systemic things, seriously systemic things that can be done. But in the final analysis, we have to do our own research. We have to ask for what we are worth. We have to know what we're worth. And nobody's going to give it to us. I mean, why would they? It's not in anybody else's best interest. We have to be in our own best interest.
This whole put your own oxygen mask on first. I mean, I have a book and a chapter in a collaborative book, and I start out with, we don't get on planes and hear the captain come on and say, and if the cabin should lose pressure and the oxygen masks drop from the compartment above you, men put your own mask on first. Women look to your left, put their mask. Look to your right, look a couple rows in front, put everyone and put in their back. And yeah, everybody good. And if you still have air,
Right.
and this has been such a automatic response of a lot too many women, frankly, too many women. And so I am completely aligned with you on this. And I will say to you, as I say to every woman of maturity, this is something that is not our fault, this horrible socialization, yet it's our responsibility.
Right.
It's
Exactly.
responsibility to your point, take radical leadership. Now, I want to drill down into this building back stronger, Gloria, because
Mhm.
women, I will say, hold themselves to a perfectionistic standard about money, I'm sure, and then you can opine about what you've learned in Planned Parenthood and over at Arizona State. But women tend to be perfectionistic, so we think about that one misstep or that two missteps, and we just harbor those. And they might have been 15 years ago, and we focus on that instead of leaning back for the lessons and then facing radically forward. So building back
Mhm.
stronger also means in our psyche, in our recognizing our talents, and to your point, asking for what we're worth. And if you don't know, ask some of your girlfriends
Oh, yes.
right now, right?
Or Google it. You can Google it. You can
Well,
Google almost everything now. You can
that-
find out. There are all kinds of places where you can find out what the pay should be for a certain position or a certain skill set or whatever. You can find out almost anything.
absolutely.
So so it's one of my favorite leadership intentioning tools in the book Intentioning
Thank you.
is, in fact, um, it is like, don't think about don't worry about having confidence. Confidence is greatly overrated. Don't
Okay.
even, don't wait until you think you are ready and prepared to do
There
something.
you go. There you go.
It's really overrated. If you are completely confident, in fact, it may keep you from learning new things. You may just be happy in whatever situation you are in. If you are not quite feeling like things are perfect, if you're excuse me, if you're just a little bit concerned that you need to know something else, learn something else, you're actually going to be better and more successful. And it shocks people when I say that initially, that, confidence is really overrated. It's not that I want you to feel scared or concerned, but I
Agreed.
want you to have a healthy openness to recognizing that there's always something new to learn. And if you're overconfident, you're going to make the same mistakes, frankly, that the men make, of feeling like they're entitled to things that they're really not entitled to, of thinking that they pull themselves up by their own bootstraps,
There
when
you have
actually nobody does. We all stand on the shoulders of other people, and there is always something new to learn. So I would say modulate that confidence and have just enough so that you're not worried about it all the time, but keep yourself open to the fact that you always want to be learning new things and you always want to be adding to your repertoire.
Oh, love that. Completely dead on and or life on. And so let's talk about how women in their 60s and beyond can position themselves to play these significant roles in this recovery and reshape.
Mhm. Well, I think we're in an interesting point right now because the recovery has, at least I would say, I don't know what percentage point I would say we are at, but we've come a long way since the pandemic, and we will, we keep on having new variations on the theme of whatever it is, but we have vaccinations and we have treatments and we can take care of ourselves from the health perspective in a way that we couldn't even 2 years ago. But but we can't avoid the disruptions that are occurring, that will occur. And so we always have to have this mindset of openness to new thoughts, to thinking new ways of doing things, to keep on learning something new. I just literally, I'm going to tell you, I am a video phobe. I don't mind at all getting on a Zoom and talking to you. But when I have to take my phone and do a video myself for social media, I tell you, I freeze up. I can't stand it. I'm terrified. It terrifies me. So I actually watched a webinar today. I downloaded a new app to help me do it better. And by golly, I'm going to learn it. And, it's just, it's a good feeling. It's a good feeling when you do that. So I think the first thing that we need to do at our age is to always be open to learning new things. I remember I had a friend who was probably 20 years older than me, maybe 30 years older than me when I met him at a course that I was taking, and he was a lecturer, and he had just turned 65 at the time.
Okay.
And he said, he was an engineer, by the way. He was both a lawyer and an engineer. So that tells you how his thought processes were very, like,
Exactly.
and yeah, right. But I'll never forget this. He said, every year now, when it's my birthday, I think about what I would want to do if I have 1 more year, 5 more years, or 10 more years. And then I set about making goals for each of those and starting to do them. And I think he ran his first marathon when he was 60 something. So it's like, at our age, whatever it is you've always thought about you wanted to do, well, go ahead. Why not do it?
Let's do it. We don't want to be on our deathbed asking those questions, right?
That's right. Yeah. So I learned that from him. And I think that mindset of always wanting to do something new and different really helps to keep you fresh. It really helps to keep you relevant. And there's no denying that when women reach, I don't know if there's a particular age, but by the time they're our age, you
Yes.
can become a little bit, like people just may not see you when you walk by. And we get that comment a lot, that all of a sudden it's like I disappeared.
Yes.
And so then it's a good time. Like a friend I had who was over 80 when I met her, about that same time as I met that gentleman I mentioned, who dyed her hair bright red when she turned 80. And I thought to myself, okay, that's how you, do something that
Yes.
that is unique to you. I mean, I don't mean, but it's not about being flamboyant just for the sake of being flamboyant. But for example, I think, I tend to wear red
Uh-huh. And you
often.
look beautiful
I
in it.
usually wear red. It's my favorite color. And at first it was just kind of like, well, the cover of a book that I wrote before I did intentioning was red. And so when I was speaking about it, I wore red to match the book. And I'm like, I actually love that color. And so it's become my brand. And I think self-branding is something that is very useful for all women to learn, but particularly when you get to our age and you want to distinguish yourself in a way that people notice you and remember you.
Well, you look beautiful in red, and I'm delighted that you've branded yourself as the woman in red. And there's so much richness in red. We can go a long
Right.
distance on that tangent. Now you've had this extraordinary career, clearly, from leading Planned Parenthood to your current role as an author and leadership expert. So, advice that you would give to women in our audience who are looking to reinvent themselves or take on new leadership roles later in life. Any more first steps, if you will?
Mm. So I will say that my mantra, generally speaking, is just say yes,
Love that.
because
Yes.
there's always something that presents itself to you if you see it, if you're open to it. Something will be in front of you, and if you say yes to it, it will lead you to whatever it is that next thing you might want to be doing, and or at least an opportunity to try something. And if it doesn't work, move on, do something else. So I wish I could tell you that I'd been intentional, since I write about intentioning. I wish I could tell you that I'd been really intentional about my whole career, but I wasn't. The one thing I was intentional about was that I realized as I was approaching my 30th anniversary with Planned Parenthood, that 30 was a good round number. And if I was ever going to do something else, at that point I was 60, something, 62, 63, something like that. And at that point, I realized that if I was ever going to do any of these other things, and for me, writing has always been my passion, and I always wanted to be a writer since I was 5 years old. But
Yeah.
life intervened, lots of things, children, all kinds of things intervened. And I realized that if I was ever going to actually have time and focus to be able to write seriously, that I needed to move on. But also 30 just seemed like a nice round number to move on from. And I found out that I'm not a brilliant writer. I'm a decent writer, but I'm not a brilliant writer, and I love writing. So I enjoyed writing the books and the articles and things like that. But ultimately, the books that I was writing and the articles that I was writing took me into something I had never planned on doing at all, which was I became obsessed with why I'd been in the women's movement for all those years. Why is it we had opened the doors, we had changed laws, we had seen a woman first in almost every sector, but women were still at that time, which is now like 13 or 14 years ago, we're still at 18% on average of the leadership positions in every single sector. And so I became obsessed with that from doing the research about why. And I had to, basically an activist, I had to not only figure out the why, but once I had done my research and created my own theories, I really felt like I needed to activate that in the form of an organization. Because as I was writing these books, people started asking me to teach workshops using them because they saw they were leadership books. I thought they were social commentary books, but other people recognized that there were really good leadership tools in there. So I created a curriculum. And in full disclosure, I have not been teaching my course at Arizona State University for a few years because I've gotten too busy with the nonprofit organization that I founded 10 years ago to take the lead. And so but I did teach that course for 10 years. So it's definitely something I love, and perhaps I'll have an opportunity to go back and do it again at some point. I would like to do that because I like staying in touch with the students and what the younger generations are thinking and saying and feeling about it. But I just, it just became obvious to me that I could write about it and I could talk about it, and that might provide some help for some people. But if I really wanted to have an impact with it, there needed to be a full curriculum and an organization, and to be able to actually get it out to more people. So two things that I want to add to that, if I may, Deborah, which is one is I realize that until women have that equal leadership, which means equal power and generally equal pay, we will keep fighting the same old battles over and over and over again and never win them. So number one, that's why, to me, helping women attain equality and parity in their leadership roles is so important now. I think it's kind of like the next thing that needs to be done to put women at the center of that recovery. And the other part of that is that in order to activate it, that I have been spending a good bit of time and can now say that I've taken that research that I did, I've taken the curriculum that I developed, and now it is available in very accessible online courses I've just released a new version for women who are in an organization and looking about how to elevate their leadership in the organization, and one for entrepreneurs, since there are so many women who go the entrepreneurial route now. So there's the online version, there's a very immersive version called 50 Women Can Change the World In. And we do that by sector. We just did one for entrepreneurs, but we've done it for media and entertainment, nonprofits, healthcare, law, journalism, lots of different, it doesn't matter. I found out that this curriculum works with any sector because it's mindset focused. It's mindset focused. It's not nuts and bolts. You can get that anywhere. I don't need to teach you how to budget and plan and, HR rules and all that. You can go learn that any place. But what you don't get in most leadership programs is the mindset, particularly the mindset that women need to be able to let go of what implicit bias has done to us.
Yes.
It's what implicit bias does to our heads that really is the problem, not the implicit bias itself.
Mhm.
It's that it teaches us we are not of as much value. We value ourselves less. We ask for less. We don't speak up. We don't we don't have the same relationship with money and power that men are socialized to have. So those are the things. So now it's a full out curriculum. It can be for any age. It can be for any industry. It can be a company can license it and bring it inside and have a plug and play leadership program. I just want this to be available to all women everywhere.
And the title Women, Power, and Leadership?
Actually, the title is 9 Leadership Power Tools. And because that's what what I wrote in the book was, it just happened that books write themselves after a while. And it happened that I was doing chapter by chapter, one of the, each chapter would have, well, this is one of the reasons why this disparity in leadership happens. And here are some tools to tell you what to do about it. And it happened that it broke down into 9 chapters with 9 tools. And so I developed the 9 tools. And so all of the courses have something to do with those 9 leadership power tools, but
Oh,
they all do focus on women power and leadership.
I love that because, of course, we're aligning power with the tool instead of power for power's sake. And when
Exactly.
we do that, it can conjures up the male power over. I put the thumb on your thumb down on you, or your, God forbid, your
Right.
their boot on our neck. And so the aspect of calling women into this, as you say, the intentionality to 9 leadership to power to 9 leadership. I didn't write the whole thing down. 9 leadership. Give me the next.
9 leadership power tools.
Power tools. Okay. And so I'm eager to get my hands on that. So this is exactly what I believe the world needs. And I also think it's what we need. Now, you had talked with me a little bit before the recording. Your I think maybe perhaps we're all a little bit surprised sometimes like that, how the younger generation kind of like, kind of doesn't really sink their teeth into the history so much. They don't feel the pain that we have. They don't see the tire tracks, and if you will, on some of our backs and on our grandmother's backs, right? And so
Right.
I hate to even say this at one level, but it's like if we can't do this, a disruption for ourselves right now because of whatever past, we're still not quite there yet. Let's be in action, to your point. Let's be a verb, and let's do it for our daughters or our nieces or the young women in our lives. And then probably in that doing, we're going to start to say, hey, well, yeah, we're doing it for the sisterhood, right? But talk to us about that intergenerational play because it's so important.
Thank you so much for bringing that up, Deborah, because one of the aspects of our program that is different from most is that it's about you, but it's not just about you. It's about, I want you to thrive because of what you learn,
Yes.
but you also have a responsibility to bring that next woman up with you.
Great.
And so when we do our immersive programs that are the 50 women cohorts, each woman creates her own strategic leadership action plan, which is great. It's really important. That's how she gets a certificate saying she's completed the course. But the cohort has to create a cohort plan, how can they work together to advance women in their industry or their sector, their profession, whatever. Because I think that is something that doesn't usually get taught.
Oh,
We're an individualistic society.
yeah. Yeah.
And so we really have to be taught proactively to understand that nobody does it alone.
Yes.
Somebody helped you. Who are you going to help? How are you going to help that next person? And how are you going to join together with your sisters and brothers who share
Right
your
now.
concerns and values? How are
Yes.
you going to join together to raise up all of the women in your profession or in society? We have that obligation, truly.
We do. And I think that the energy of, multiple generations is also rich. I mean, way back in college, I think I was maybe in a freshman even, I just thought to myself, oh my gosh, we have always been an age of society. And I just thought, bring grandchildren, the age of grandchildren into, like, in the old folks homes, right? The nursing home, whatever, adult communities, bring them in there because they skipped that generation, right? And now the grandkids are like, feeling the wrinkles, and the older people are ecstatic for, a new face and attention and so forth. And it's that bringing together, but, beyond that, and that was just a kind of a harebrained idea. And yet beyond that, this whole breaking down of any barriers and getting to the core, the epicenter, if you will, of women's power and women's brilliance in leadership. I mean, the neuron chit chat within a woman is both, and the neuron chit chat in a man is like yes, no, right. And so, and I love to study the brain, and we can create new neuron pathways. And you say, well, I never did that before. And to your point, okay, so you say, and it's here to do, and some reason it's been drawn into my focal point. I'm sitting here at a time like this with this opportunity in front of me. Do I know the next 4 steps in cement? Absolutely not. And that's a good thing. Say yes.
Right. Absolutely. Yes. Without question. And that's, I mean, that's the best part of life, is actually not necessarily knowing what that next thing is going to be. Be a little surprised.
Because sometimes it supersedes
Right.
how you viewed the immediate opportunity. Oh, that's wonderful. Okay, so the course, I know you haven't taught it recently, but it's ingrained in your core puzzles, women
Oh, yeah.
power leadership. So talk to us about the dynamics of power and leadership changing for women as they enter their 60s. We've touched on it. Is there anything else you want to add to that discussion?
Right. We see the phrase a lot, stepping into her power. And I started thinking about that the other day, and I thought, I kind of don't, I'm not sure about that. I first of all, I do not use the word empower when I talk about what I do,
Okay.
or when I talk about what we do for women, because what I found in my research is that we actually have the power.
Yes.
We often don't know it, or we may not have all of the power, but we have power. And the concept of empowering somebody else implies that that person needs to be filled up, that person doesn't have whatever it is, the knowledge, whatever, that, just doesn't have the capacity. And I believe that we have the capacity, and we all have power. Even when people don't have formal power, they have power. And this is something that I learned from involvement in the civil rights movement in the 1960s, which is that even if you don't really have formal power, when you join together, you create power. You make power. And one of my 9 leadership power tools is use what you've got. So you start by making a list of, well, what are those things? What are those powers that you have, that you bring? Perhaps it's your education, perhaps it's a skill, perhaps it's relationships that you have, perhaps it's, a plan that you have, perhaps it's money. Whatever it is, we've all got something that is some kind of power. And when you look at the fact that women have been earning 57% of the college degrees for decades, who's the prepared workforce? Who's prepared to do what an economy that's based on brains, not brawn, needs?
Right.
It's women. It's us. We're the ones who are really, so we have a lot of power. The data, for example, is clear that companies with more women in their leadership are more profitable by a factor of like 15%.
Yes, they are.
ROI. That's not, that's big. That's a lot. But even, when people know that, they don't necessarily make the change. So that's why we have to embrace the power we have and then go use it. We have to insist upon it. So I don't use the word empower. And I'm thinking about that phrase, stepping into your power. Yeah. It's kind of like the next thing. Yeah. Realize the power you have and then embrace it. Take it in. Let the world know that you have it.
Yes.
Whatever it might be. What is the thing that you bring? I mean, like Debra, look at you with you have these great communication skills. and you have this knowledge about money and the importance of money for women. You have all of these things, and there may be some things you don't have, but look what you've got. So use it, right? What you're doing.
I'm totally there. And there, just as you were saying it slowly, Gloria, I was listening carefully, stepping into our power. And there's a sense by which, and this might be too much of a stretch,
Mhm.
sense by which that the power is almost outside of ourselves. So we're going to
Exactly. Yeah.
this,
Really,
like
it's
this
inside.
dodgeball center, or this block, this
Right.
what do we call it? Four. Well, we played something in school that was 4 blocks, but you're going to step into that next box, and that's your power, right? But
Yeah.
I think the whole aspect of us sinking into and dusting off, right? Because some crap has gotten over our power illumination, right? And it's clouded, the illumination has clouded the beam of light, and we get in there and dust that off like we would dust furniture or clean off a headlight, because
Right.
it is within each of us.
It is. It is totally. One of the stories I tell often is a personal story, is during the time when I was a teen mom, a teen marriage. We did our best. We stayed together for 18 years. Gave it a good try, right? Okay, 3 great kids. But there was a time when clearly something had to change.
Yes.
And I was terrified. I was absolutely terrified. I was afraid I would lose my friends, my family, my children, the whole thing. And I had this dream. Actually, when I tell the story, I don't tell people it was a dream until the punchline. But I had this dream that I was driving the family car I was living in West Texas, so dusty, winding West Texas roads. And all of a sudden the accelerator stuck, and the car started careening around these hairpin turns, and the brakes weren't responding. I was pumping the brakes and the brakes wouldn't respond. And I thought, well, okay, what can I do to save my life? What if that was when you had actual keys to turn on a car. And
Yes.
what if, you have to be over 60 to remember that. And, and what if I turn the key off and the car will roll to a stop? Well, I looked, and there was no key in, there was no key in the ignition. And I, it's like what seemed like an hour was probably 2 seconds.
Exactly.
I looked over at my hand, and there was the key. And it took me a minute, again, probably 2 seconds, to be brave enough to take the key, put it in the ignition, and turn the car off. And to me, the moral of that story, the metaphor of that story, is that the key is in our hands. But we have to have the courage, the wisdom to see it, and the courage to use it.
I use
It's
it.
always there. It's always there. And even when we think it isn't. And so that for me is a story that I often tell, as there's so many women who feel stuck.
Yes.
There's so many women who feel stuck and feel like they just can't move. They can't move on. They can't leave a job. They can't, they can't leave an abusive marriage. They can't, they feel like they are stuck wherever they are in their life. And that's why it's important to help women know where their power is, and to help them really see it, see what keys do they have in their hand, and how might they use it, and how can they make their car roll to a stop so they can get out and save their own life. It's not easy. It's not easy. It can be painful. You have to leave other things behind, but you
And
gotta have
it is a choice, right, Gloria?
a choice, and it's a courageous choice. You have to have the courage to do it.
And in that dream, thank you for sharing. Gosh, that's profound. In that dream, you were choosing life. You cannot go at that breakneck speed and hairpin turns too long before something bad is going to happen.
That
And
is correct.
I'm reading underneath that you're choosing life, which in all reality, our life is, in my humble, a series of degrees, right? So so many women have, like, they get to this time of life, and they've like, been there, done that, or kind of did my contribution, like as per their socialization. And it's kind of like they shrink a little, and I'm intentionally, they shrink a little. And it's
Right.
kind of like if you were writing the obituary truthfully, it would be like, Betty died at age 68 and was buried at 82, and that's
My
horrible.
goodness. Oh,
That's not horrible.
that's very sad to think about. Yes, no,
It is. However,
yeah.
I think to this, I continue to approach and be engaging with women who are, and particularly whether around their money, but not necessarily confined to money. They are paralyzed because of a misstep, right?
Mhm,
And or they turned it inward and now they're shame filled. Now this
mhm.
is this is, the it's like one of the lowest emotions, shame, right? Because it's not like, okay, I made a misstep and I'm guilty of making a misstep. It's like I am the misstep. And if
Mhm,
we can get out of self-identifying with one negative piece, let alone more than one negative pieces, then
mhm,
to your point earlier, we are going to open ourselves up, keep opening ourselves up to something different, a different perspective, a different vantage point. And I love this dream about driving. I took some BMW driving. Well, I went to do a BMW driving school, and it was a lot of fun. And we're doing, racing around the Shea. You're right, in New York. It was at Shea Stadium, and we're driving BMWs at 120 miles an hour around it, like S curves and everything. And I thought I was an okay driver. Of course, we all do, right? And the professionals in the car, and so I'm doing this S curve, and we were trained in the morning, train, always look ahead, a lot ahead. And I was like looking ahead, and he takes my head like this. We're going about 120. He takes my head and goes,
Oh,
it's like 90 degrees. I'm like, oh, that far ahead, hadn't thought of it, right? And so I think if we imagine that longevity, these stats on longevity are more true than false, and if we enter age 65 without a major health impairment, we're likely to live well into our 80s.
right,
If we have the courage to say, what next can I do to build the legacy on which I now stand,
right,
to,
right.
to up the power, and advocate for women to look inside. The power is always within. It might not have just been tapped lately or for the last 2 decades. And this kind of hope that you bring to women to be the power over themselves and make those life-giving choices for them and their sisters and their family and their daughters and their nieces is absolutely brilliant. I salute you.
Oh, thank you. Well, I just wanted to compliment you on what you said about looking outward, because I do think that is another part of this equation, which is the more you look inward, or we say it, your own belly button,
Yeah.
the the more you can get depressed.
Yes.
The more
Yeah.
you can get depressed. But the more the antidote to that is action. And if you take action, particularly in an external way, the women that I know who are they may be at the point where they either or they do not wish to have a paid employment at some point, and they have the means to do that.
Yes.
But the ones who are the happiest have found some other way to work, basically. They're, we'll use my husband as an example of this. When he ultimately was wonderfully supportive always of me and my work, and he ultimately sold his business in Arizona so he could come to New York where my job was with Planned Parenthood. And for a long time, he was really depressed and he was sitting on the couch kind of molting. And I said, "Well, what do you want to do?" And he said, "Well, when I was a child," he grew up in Brooklyn. He said, "When I was a child, I always loved the Museum of Natural History.
Oh, it's a
I
beautiful
think
one.
I'd like to volunteer there."
Mm.
So he did. He volunteered there for 22 years.
Oh,
He and what was really wonderful is there is a whole subculture of these smart retired people who are giving days a week. I mean,
yes.
I never saw him study so hard for anything.
Oh, that's so
That's what he had to learn to do that, because he did not have any knowledge of it going into it.
good.
But it really gave him a whole new lease on life. And I see, both men and women there, it has made a huge difference for them They love it. They are so responsible. They, if they're self-managing. If somebody can't be there for their shift, they get somebody else to, to fill in for them. And it's finding what it is that is a passion for you. And it may be something you weren't able to do in your previous work life.
Absolutely. Being a docent is so rich, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It is. I mean, they're just like I have to say, we we did some international travel with another couple one time, and I spent 2 weeks with all three of them were studying for their next test at the museum, and I was so bored, but
That's
but they
adorable.
were, I mean, they were so passionate about it, and so find something that is your passion. It may be something you haven't even ever had the time or the resources to do in your life. And it could just open up new doors, and it will definitely introduce you to new people and give you new friends, new
It-
colleagues.
Right there, right there.
And that in itself is a great gift.
Amen, sister. This is so rich because the isolation that can happen, and we experienced a lot of that in a compounded way after the pandemic. This isolation, and boy, the second to your earlier point, the second you start to navigate, to check out your own navel, and I mean that is like a downhill slope right there. And so to be able to broaden our horizons and connect with like-minded or interested people, I
Mhm.
think completely adds a different component because you can't help but through osmosis, you're next to them and we're going skiing next week. You still ski? Heck yes. Or whatever it is. And this
Right.
enlivens all of us.
Yes,
I
yes, definitely. Definitely. And then you also you have a support system. You have you just I mean you just have to keep learning. That's when you put yourself in a situation where you have to keep learning something, and giving something to somebody else, helping someone else, helping other people is always, I mean, we've all heard the better to give than receive. Well, sometimes you think, well, blah, blah, blah. But there is a lot of truth in that. There is truth in it because it's purposeful. It
it
gives you such purpose.
it
And
is.
and that's I think, ultimately purpose in life is what we're all looking for. We're all looking for purpose. And you don't find it when you look inward all the time. You only find that purpose when you look outward and think about, well, what can I do to make the world a better place?
Mhm, mhm. I couldn't agree more. And the aspect of purpose, I'm going to coattail the uh the paying it forward, right? And so, like, if I'm in a funk, right? You know what gets at least me out of a funk? Giving something to someone. And people say, "Oh, I don't have any money." I didn't say money. Give
Yeah.
me something. So even with masks, like my cousins are like, "Well, with masks, we can't see each other." Like, here's my mask. All right, here I am. Oh, I can't see anything. And then here I am, in the grocery store, and I can wink, I can smile. When I smile, you can still see my eyes smiling. And so it's using what we have, right?
Mhm.
And
Right.
being, lifting ourselves out of that self-absorption. If you will pay the toll for the person behind you. Yes, I have Easy Pass. And I sometimes go through that with the green, with the change, give them the money for me in the car behind me. And it's life-giving. It's unbelievably fun for them to race up beside you afterwards and say, "Hey, thanks." And it's just what life is made of. These little moments are
Mhm.
what fill our cup of life to overflowing. And I invite each woman listening live today and on the replay to embrace your wisdom that has come with your age, to
Yes.
embrace the knowing, to forgive yourself for whatever it is you're hanging on to because you don't need that anymore. You've
Mhm.
been there and you've done that. And Gloria is here to say she's writing, she's doing her work with women leadership power. She's done it at Planned Parenthood. She's doing it at Take the Lead. And we are looking for her coming books. But let's end on this, Gloria. Are you able to give us what's your secret ingredient for the chili? I mean, talk to us here.
Oh, listen, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I've given this recipe so many times to so many people. It's very simple.
Oh,
Uh,
good.
I'm happy to send it to you.
Send it
And
to Iris,
I
and
can
we
give
are
you
going
a
to
red chili version and a green chili version.
Yes, all right, all right.
I learned the red chili version from my mom's when I was teaching Head Start, and we would do these big chili dinners to raise money. And then the green chili, I can't remember where I learned the green chili. I think it was somebody in Albuquerque taught me this. I can't remember. Anyway, but yes, the chili is very simple, and it's a lot of fun to do and to feed. One of the most fun things for me is still cooking and feeding people. So even though my children are all grown, even though, it's still every once in a while I have to like figure out a way to cook a big something or other and feed a whole bunch of people, because that's something that feeds me. I love doing that.
It
And
does.
yeah, and can I make a small pitch here? Just a small
I
pitch?
want to give you the floor for a
Okay.
closing comment.
Well, I mean, it just occurred to me because I tend to forget to
Uh-huh.
just ask, right? For, something. Just like I never thought about asking for more money when I was working. It was just like, oh, isn't this nice? They're paying me for what I love to do. But I realized that because of exactly what you've just said, the incredible wealth and richness of the women who will, and maybe men who are watching this and thinking about, well, what do I do in this last third of my life that
Right.
can be helping other people? So Take the Lead is a nonprofit organization. We're always looking for board members. We're looking for people with skills that they can contribute in the legal world, in the teaching world, with coaching, mentoring. So we're always eager to find out if there are people who would like to help women who are coming up in the world and to become more powerful and to know their power and to lead. So just I'm making a pitch. Our website is taketheleadwomen.com. And you can find us, and I'm easy to find from there, and I would love to hear from you.
Exactly. Well, thank you, Gloria. We have your links and so forth, and we'll have them on our page later. I am beyond grateful for you, your work, and your sharing some of it with us today. This won't be the last time we talk, I hope. And
Uh,
thank you again. And let's just take Gloria's message to heart. And throughout the day and the week and the month ahead, just say yes, women. All right. Thank you so much. We can do it, women. This woman's done it. You've done it. Look inside, look to your history. We've all done it. Let's do more, because the world is hungry for our energy and our empathy and our brilliant leadership. Thank you so much.